Good afternoon / morning, everybody. It is Steve Lookner with Agenda Free TV coming to you here live. I am still in Mexico City for a little while longer, but bringing you live coverage on the possible government shutdown coming up. You may hear a little air conditioner noise in the background. That's because where I'm staying right now, I kind of need to have this air conditioner on because it's quite warm in the place. So I apologize but for the air conditioner noise in the background. But I will be back shortly in my regular studio. And hey, you know what? I see that there is a White House press briefing going on right this second. So let me just really quick, I want to check out what's happening at the White House press briefing. Oops. If I can do that real quick. And we'll start to get your comments and everything like that. But if you give me 2 seconds here, can I get this on the screen? Can I get this on the screen? All right, let's check this out. I think they might be talking about the shutdown stuff, but let me see.
They're getting in the way here, and they are the ones who have created this mess. That's the reality. That's the fact. And the president, and let me just take a step back. This is not the first time we've been here. And the president has had this approach before. He understands how Congress works. He's been around for some time. He understands what strategy works here to get this done. So this is not the first time that I'm being asked this question about the president and his outreach. I just mentioned he made 2 calls. He was in touch with the leader, the Democratic leaders on both the House and the Senate, Schumer and Jeffries. And his team is continuing to have that conversation. But this is the mess that was created by Speaker Johnson. He needs to fix this. That's what the American people need to be very clear about. Very clear. There was a bipartisan agreement, and he's not holding up his side of the bargain here.
Right. We hear that message from you, but why aren't we hearing that directly from the president? Why haven't we seen or heard from President Biden himself?
This is a strategy that we have done many times before, not the first time. And this is for Republicans in Congress, in the House specifically, to fix. They created this mess. There was a bipartisan agreement. There was a bipartisan agreement.
Come in front of cameras.
There was a bipartisan agreement. There was a bipartisan agreement. And so what we want to do and what the president wants to make sure we do is he stands ready to help get a bipartisan deal through. That's what he wants to see. And, this is something that Republicans should own here. What they tried to jam at the 11th hour doesn't reflect and what that bipartisan deal that they came up with obviously with Democrats. And Republicans are showing a disregard for the American public.
Just lastly, some leading Democrats are calling Elon Musk President Musk or Co-President Musk. What is the White House's and President Biden's reaction to this labeling of Elon Musk, and whether or not House Republicans are listening more to this billionaire than the president-elect?
What I can say is congressional Republicans, at the direction, and you all know this, you all reported this, of President Trump and Elon Musk, are trying to pave the way. What they're doing is trying to pave the way for $5 trillion to our national debt. That's what this decision does. You're talking about with cuts for billionaires, slashing Social Security, slashing Medicare, slashing Head Start. Congressional Republicans did what they did because of what the president-elect said and what Elon Musk said. That's the reality. You guys all reported this. That's why we are where we are today. So this is for Speaker Johnson to fix. This is the mess that he created. He needs to fix this. Again, a bipartisan agreement. There is a bipartisan agreement.
Ms. Green, would the president support a 4-bill strategy that we've seen discussed today, which would separate clean CR from a farm bill extension, disaster aid, and debt limit?
I'm not going to get into hypotheticals. What I can say is there is I'm going to get very repetitive here because it is true and it needs to be said. There is a bipartisan agreement. There's a deal that was agreed upon, and that's what they need to move forward with. And when I mean I mean the Republicans in Congress. They need to move forward with that deal. That's what they said, with the deal that was agreed upon. That's what they said they would move forward with. The Speaker said that. And He's not holding up his side of the bargain. He's not. His side of the deal, he is not holding up.
And in response to President-elect Trump's statements this morning that this is a Biden problem, but if Republicans can help solve it, they will. I imagine we'll be able to repeat some of what you just said, but in response to that.
Congressional Republicans made their decision because of what the president-elect said at their direction, the direction of the president-elect, and the right direction of Elon Musk. There was a bipartisan deal on the table. They were moving forward. The speaker agreed to do this, to move forward the bipartisan deal, and they stopped that because of what the president-elect said and what Elon Musk said. They wanted to clear a way for their billionaire friends, a tax cut, $5 trillion to the national debt, with tax cuts to billionaires, for billionaires. So that's the reality. You've all reported this. We've seen this. We saw what was being stated, what was being put out there by the president-elect and Elon Musk. There's no hiding from that. That's the reality. And so, you know, we're talking about, this is not politics here. We're talking about the American people who need these programs, who need it. And so, Political Playbook had to say what they had to say about this. Trump picked the fight. He picked the fight, and it was Trump. Well, with him and Elon Musk, who sank the bipartisan deal. That's what you all are reporting. You can't twist the facts or change history here. Okay.
So based on the White House's assessment of where things stand right now on Capitol Hill, should Americans be prepared for the government to shut down tonight at midnight?
There's still time. We believe there's still time for that to not happen, for Republicans to do the right thing, to hold up their part of the deal and move forward with the bipartisan agreement. There's still time. And our focus is keeping the government open. That's what we want to see. And we hope Republicans want to do that. Republicans in Congress want to do that as well. And there's still time.
And we've talked a little bit here about how the president really has not been a player at all in these negotiations. I know you said he spoke with Schumer and Jeffries today, but what exactly is the strategy behind that? Is there a sense that perhaps having him involved at this moment would do more harm than good?
I kind of took this question, I got some formulation of that question moments ago. The president knows how to deal with Congress. He's been around for some time, as you all know. And this is not the first time that we've had this strategy where we have said it is Congress's, one of their number one jobs is to keep the government open. In this particular instance, you saw what Republicans did with Speaker Johnson obviously leading us to this mess, to where we are right now. And they need to fix it, period. It is their mess to fix. It is. There was a deal, a bipartisan deal. There was, just days ago. And they created this mess. Speaker Johnson needs to fix this. Republicans in Congress needs to fix this. It is their mess to fix. And they allowed this bipartisan deal to be scuttled by the president-elect.
And if the government shuts down for an extended period of time, would President Biden commit to remaining here in Washington and not going through with his holiday plans?
I don't have anything. I can't get into hypotheticals. I don't have anything to share on this. We believe, as I just said moments ago, there's still time to get to a deal here, or move forward. I shouldn't say get to a deal. Move forward with the bipartisan agreement. They can't avoid a shutdown. They can. They were on their way to doing that, and it was scuttled by the president-elect and Elon Musk. This is why we're here today. That's why we're here today. Okay. Yep, okay.
Corinne, you've said that House Speaker Mike Johnson needs to fix this. Has President Biden spoken to the House Speaker, or does he have any plans to?
I've answered this in so many ways, and I'm going to answer it now. We got to be really clear. Speaker Johnson created this mess, and he needs to fix it. I don't have anything else to add beyond that. He knows, the Speaker knows how to fix this. They got to a bipartisan deal. He said he was going to move forward with it. They stopped it because of the direction that they were given by the president-elect and Elon Musk. And right now we need to focus, and we need to continue to focus on the American people. We're talking about shutting down the government that will impact veterans programs, services that Americans truly need. They know how to fix this. Republicans actually know how to fix this. That's why they were able to get a bipartisan agreement on the table. They know in order to move forward with this, you need a bipartisan agreement. And there was one, and they did not move forward with it because of what they were told by President-elect Trump and also Elon Musk. Okay.
I agree. I'll go at the question another way. In this moment, is the president leading?
The president is the president of the United States, and he is leading. And to be very clear, as it relates to this, I've said this many times before, moments ago, and I'll say it again. We have done the strategy before. This is not new, where we have said Congress needs to deal with this. This is their number one job, is to keep the government open. And there was an agreement on the table, not just an agreement, a bipartisan agreement. Speaker Johnson created this mess. He needs to fix it, period.
To be clear, the strategy is he is leading by staying in the background.
The strategy is the Congress, Republicans in particular, need to do their jobs and get out of their own way and focus on the American people, not their billionaire friends. That is what needs to happen, and that's what the president wants to see.
Does the president believe that the U.S. debt ceiling should be eliminated?
You all know where the president stands on this. His focus right now is keeping the government open. That's what he's going to focus on.
The vice president canceled her trip to California. Can you say why?
You would have to speak to her office. I can't speak to that.
And then finally on Syria, really quickly, the DoD said yesterday that there are about 2,000 U.S. troops in Syria. That's double what the administration has said beforehand. Why the discrepancy?
So I would have to refer you to the Department of Defense to speak to troop numbers. That is their purview. That is something that we have always been pretty consistent on, that they have to speak to. I know that they said yesterday that the additional forces are considered temporary, that they are deployed to meet shifting mission requirements, but I have to leave it to the Department of Defense, to the Pentagon, to speak to troops.
Last question, Corinne,
Yep.
and I know you have tried to answer it several times, but shouldn't Americans hear from the President of the United States just hours from a shutdown?
What Americans need to know is that you have Republicans in Congress, in the House, who got in a way, who stopped a bipartisan agreement. They got in the way. They created this mess. And I said this earlier when I said, and you all know this, or you report this, it is not easy to get to a bipartisan agreement here in this town. And there was one. Both sides sat down, they came to an agreement, which is a good thing for the American people. We thought we were moving in that direction, and Republicans decided to instead listen and give space to their billionaire friends and not put the American people first. That's what is happening. That's what we're seeing. Go ahead, Michael.
Thanks, Corinne. Just wondering if you could give us an update on Nippon Steel's pending purchase of U.S. Steel. Excuse me, the panel that is reviewing that transaction is expected to issue its recommendation soon, so I'm just wondering if
All right, so we'll see if she says, she might be done talking about the shutdown stuff. I'll give it a minute and see if she comes back to it. But you heard the White House position on this, which is that earlier this week, which is true, earlier this week there was a bipartisan agreement in Congress for a spending deal that would keep the government open, I believe, for several more months until March. And then on Wednesday, Elon Musk and then Donald Trump publicly came out against the deal. And then the deal fell apart. It lost some Republican support. And now we have 11 hours and 8 minutes and 31 seconds until a U.S. government shutdown, unless Congress can come together and pass a spending bill and the president signs it. There will be a government shutdown at midnight tonight, 11 hours, 8 minutes, 15 seconds. So we are bringing you some live coverage of this. Going to take some of your comments on the air. I am in Mexico City just for a little while longer, just visiting. So I apologize for any kind of technical difficulties. I'm not in my normal studio. I'm in kind of a makeshift setup here. So you may hear an air conditioner in the background. I'm sorry about that. And but hopefully nothing too crazy happens with the technical stuff. And we're going to be taking your comments and bringing you updates here. Yes, Eastern time, midnight Eastern time, as one of our viewers just said. And we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. I'm gonna give you some updates that I've been seeing about where things are at. There could be some more votes today. Late yesterday, Congress voted on a spending bill that the president had endorsed, a new one. And it actually needed a 2/3 vote to pass, and it got well less than half. And I think roughly something like 38 Republicans voted against it. So what will happen? Are we going to have a shutdown tonight? We'll have to see. My Melanin says, doesn't this happen every year? Well, not every year. The last time there was a shutdown, well, the last time, I mean, it can happen when the, this can happen when the government hasn't funded itself, but also when the debt ceiling needs to be raised. That's another thing that periodically happens, is there's this thing, that the debt ceiling, which limits the amount of money that the U.S. government can borrow. And Congress needs to raise that periodically, and it can lead to these big fights in Congress. But the last time there was a shutdown actually was between, I think, 2018 to 2019. That was the last one, about 6 years ago. So this could be the first shutdown since about 6 years ago, late 2018. Let's see here. They're about. So I'm going to give you some. Let me just see. Is she still talking? Let me just check back and see what the audio is on this.
They blew it up, and they need to fix it. This is not for the president to fix. This is not for us to fix. This is for Republicans in Congress to fix this, the mess that they created.
But has he expressed any thoughts or feelings on the president-elect and Elon Musk?
You're hearing what I'm saying, right? I speak for the President of the United States. So when I speak for the President of the United States, I am speaking directly for him. So you are hearing where he feels about this, what his thoughts are about this, and we believe, and the American people should know this, that Republicans need to fix the mess that they caused. The Speaker knows how to get this right. To get this right is to move forward with a bipartisan agreement, the bipartisan agreement that they had come to not too long ago. We thought we were going to move forward with that agreement, and they blew it up. They blew it up. You good? Okay.
Thanks, Green. Has the government started informing employees who might be furloughed?
Yeah.
Those specific folks, especially headed into the holiday season, are they being informed that they might not get their paycheck?
So, look, we believe that there's still time for Congress to prevent a partial shutdown. We believe that. But in the interest of prudent planning, we want to be prudent here. Agencies did start notifying their employees of their potential furlough today at noon. And so on that specific, as it relates to furloughs, I would certainly refer you to OMB on those specifics.
And given the high stakes of this shutdown, again, during the holiday season, affecting people like veterans, police officers, et cetera, will the president speak to the American people if there is a shutdown so that they can hear from him directly?
I am not going to get into hypotheticals, because we believe, as I just, the beginning of answering your last questions, that there's still time to prevent a partial shutdown. We believe that Congress, Republicans in Congress, could get to a place where they prevent this.
When is the next time that people will hear from the president?
I'm not going to get into hypotheticals. Okay. It is very easy. I hear your question, but it's very easy to fix this. The mess that Republicans created, it is very easy for them to fix this. Bipartisan deal agreement. Move forward. Keep your word, Republicans in Congress. Keep your word. Keep your word. Go ahead.
Thank you, Karen. I have a question on China. In the final month of this administration, we continue to see high-level talks between us and China, including last week. Is President Biden making his final?
We'll go back to that in a second. We'll see if she's talking more about the shutdown. By the way, quick thanks to I Love Reading for being a member, and Stinky Pinky for your support. Stinky Pinky says she keeps slamming the desk. I think she might be mad. We're going to get into some specifics here. Let me just do a quick check real quick. I want to just make sure. You know, there may be some votes later today or tonight to try to avert this thing. But we don't know yet, and we don't know exactly what those votes might be on. I was just looking for updates on that. Also, I'll keep an eye on if there's any kind of debate going on like the House floor. I'll keep an eye on that. I don't believe there is right this second, but I certainly would like to see that if that happens. Hang on 1 minute here. Yeah, not right now, but we'll see. We'll see if we get some debate from Congress today. Is she talking about the shutdown right now? Let's see.
Manage this relationship through skilled diplomacy.
No, she is not. I'm going to read some comments now. Leslie S. says Musk is the power behind the throne. Mike Anti says, if they shut it down, who's going to spy on me? Wow. Hold on. Is this more about the shutdown? Let's see.
Second meeting with the Pope.
No, that's not it. Sharon Jose thinks Democrats caused it. Yeah, I'm just going to see if she says anything else more about the shutdown stuff. Looks like she might end soon. Thanks to all of our moderators. I really appreciate our moderators being here. Roberts Mayqueen is moderating right now. Thank you, Roberts Mayqueen. Also, Linda Belk and Larry on X. And also, hold on a moment here. We'll get you up to date in a second. Bastion Girl, Big Ball of Yarn, Idaho Star, I Got That Fire, McBritches and Surly Dev on Twitch. Thank you. Also, thanks to JCon for subscribing on Twitch. And over there on Facebook, thanks for our moderators over there. We have Kay Lowry Body is modding. Thanks, Kay. Ronald Egnor, Margaret Riley. Thanks to all of our moderators there.
This possibility would mean for those individuals.
And it is sad that I have to explain that. Really. They are congressional members. One of their duties is to keep the government open because, as you just stated, we're talking about veterans. We're talking about vulnerable Americans who need services that the federal government provides in order just to make it through the day. And it is sad that what we're seeing from Republicans is picking their billionaire friends. That's what they're doing. Not the American people, not our veterans. And we're talking about basic services that are needed. OMB certainly could dive in and lay out the different programs that will be impacted, that will impact Americans if this indeed happens. But, John, we can avoid this. They can avoid this. This does not have to end this way. We do not have to end with a government shutdown and really put a negative impact on American families, a negative impact on our veterans. This could be avoided. Republicans in Congress don't have to go this route. They don't. There was a whole different route that they were going, which would have actually been done in a bipartisan way. We believe, this president believes, that it is important as we move policies, as we move forward on behalf of the American people, we do it in a bipartisan way. And they had that deal.
Do you happen to know if there would be a delay of any kind for Social Security recipients from receiving their checks or members of the military from receiving their pay?
You're laying out everything that we're concerned about. Those are the things that we are concerned about. Yes, those are concerns. But there's a way out of this. There is. Republicans need to fix this. They need to fix this mess that they created. It's very easy to do.
you do an excellent job advocating on behalf of the president, but do you think the president would do a better job if he was out there making those same ideas present to the public in terms of what a shutdown would mean for all of those vulnerable Americans?
What I will say is Republicans need to do their job. I would not be fielding these questions from you all if Republicans didn't lead us here. They did. They created this mess. The only reason we're having this back and forth is because the Republicans created this mess in Congress, in the House specifically. They created this mess, and they can fix it. They were on their way to fixing this with this bipartisan agreement. So I think the onus is on them to get this right. Okay.
Does the administration have any updates on the whereabouts of Austin Tice compared to last week?
Yeah.
We'll check back in and see if she talks more about this. Just, we'll get to some more updates in a second. By the way, CNN reports that Party City is going out of business. That's according to CNN. Party City is going out of business. Thanks to BNO News for the heads up about that. Thank you to Bot Zero for your support. Bot Zero says about to be fixed, but Democrats won't like it. Thanks to Josh Glanzer, our new member. You can hear a bunch of questions as to why President Biden doesn't come out himself and address the American public with a shutdown happening shortly if no spending bill is passed in less than 11 hours now. But apparently that's not going to happen. BZ says, how many times is she going to say the same thing? Well, it seems like she has a certain line, some certain talking points, and she'll, whatever question she gets on the shutdown, she seems like she's sticking to that line. Snarled ASP said, is this why Biden and Harris are rushing back to D.C.? So I guess, I mean, she said it during this a little earlier. She said that like Harris had canceled her plan, I think, to go to L.A., and she said she wasn't sure why. I was thinking, wouldn't Biden and Harris want to be around? Like, for example, like the Senate would need to pass any spending bill. What if it's 50-50 in the Senate and they need the vice president's vote to break the tie? Also, the president would need to sign a bill, a spending bill, for it to become law. So I have no idea, but I was just thinking, well, the president and the vice president would want to be in D.C. in case some last-minute agreement was reached, and the vice president was needed to break a tie in the Senate, and the president needs to sign the bill. Because I don't think they can do that stuff not in D.C. I think they need to be there. I think. Maybe I'm wrong about this. Maybe the president does the president have to be in D.C. to sign a bill? That I don't know about. But maybe not, actually. But I would think that, but maybe, again, my point is more that maybe they want to be around in D.C. and not somewhere else while this deadline is happening, while it's coming down to the deadline. So that was the only thought I had. I haven't heard that they're sticking around D.C. for any other reason. Yeah, I would think a president can sign a bill wherever. But I don't think she can break a tie wherever. Oh, is she talking about this again? Let's see. What's she saying?
Been preparing for months to make sure that happens. I will say, though, there is a shutdown, and I don't want to get too much into hypotheticals, but this is the reality. Transition activities will be restricted, and with limited exceptions, obviously, but such as prevent imminent threats to the safety of human life or the protection of property. Those are the things that we would that we would have to be concerned about. And so we're doing everything to ensure a smooth transition, but the choice to allow a transition to move forward is in the hands of Republicans in Congress. We can continue to have this smooth transition of power if they stop threatening a shutdown. They have an opportunity, Republicans in Congress have an opportunity to keep the government open so that we can continue what the president's commitment has been for months now, is to make sure that there's a smooth transition of power.
Just two clarifications, I guess. The first one, is this trip to Rome the last foreign trip that the president will take?
What I can say is the president's going to Italy and is going to go on a Kona trip in January. I'm always very careful. Anything could happen, but what I can say for sure is that the president's certainly going to be going to Italy.
One of our viewers had a good question, which was, oops, hold on. One of our viewers asked about, would a spending bill need 60 votes in the Senate? You might be right. I'm looking right now at something in the Wall Street Journal, which says, from today, which says, well, it doesn't talk about, it says Republicans, it says mostly you can't pass a spending bill without 60 votes. I don't know about this bill. That's a good question. I do not know about this bill. Does this bill need 60 votes or not? That's a good question. That's all right. That's the end of the press conference. All right. So I'll try to find that out as well. A good question from our viewer. All right, we're back. Now what I want to do is, I want to take out my headphones. Let me try to do something here. Let's talk about what's going on. Okay, there. Hang on a moment. All right, are we good? You guys can hear me? Can you hear me right now? You might hear a little bit of an air conditioner in the background. I do apologize. I'm in Mexico City for a little while longer, just a little while. I'll be back very soon, and I'll be back in my home studio soon. So I'm sorry if you are hearing like some AC noise in the background. Yes, people say they can hear me though. Good. So let's talk about what's going on. John Q. Public, it needs a 2/3 majority in the House. In the House. I don't know that about the Senate, though. Does it need 2/3 in the Senate? That I don't know. That's a good question. Hang on one second here. Okay. Let's see. Let's just, you know what? Well, I'll put that on my list of things to try to figure out. But let's talk about what's. First of all, let's stop showing that. Second of all, let's show this. Time is running out. Time is running short for the government to avert a government shutdown after funding bill is rejected. This is from AP. Let's go over what's going on. Hey, thanks to Jesus UCSB, by the way, UCSB. Jesus says, as a federal employee, let me tell you who to blame for a shutdown, Elon and Trump. That's from Jesus UCSB. So many federal workers, if there's a shutdown, would be either told not to come to work temporarily, which is furloughed, or they would keep working but not get paychecks. So many federal workers, hundreds of thousands, would stop getting their paychecks for one reason or another if this happens. So let's just take a quick look here. And by the way, thanks to Scott H. for being a member too, and our new member Stinky Pinky. So you can see here. I want to actually give you a little summary of what's going on first, and then we'll get to that. Hang on one moment here. Let me show you this. Republicans mount third attempt to fund government shutdown looms, says Reuters. Republicans in the U.S. Congress today mounted a third attempt to avert a government shutdown with only hours to spare after two previous plans were scuttled by President-elect Trump and Elon Musk, I would say, and members of their own party. Republican Representative Ralph Norman told reporters that party leaders plan to hold a vote today, I guess that is, on a third spending bill, though he did not provide details. Others said they would not try to win over Democrats, whose support likely will be needed to extend funding past midnight tonight when it is due to expire. We're not working with Democrats, said Republican Representative Anna Paulina Luna. So, I mean, if they're not working with Democrats, this probably is not going to pass because the House is using a certain procedure to get these get a spending bill voted on quickly. And through that procedure, as I understand it, that requires a 2/3 vote in the House to pass. So the Republicans have a slim majority in the House. They would need Democrat support for 2/3. But you know, this says third attempt here. So there was a compromise reached on Tuesday between Democrats and Republicans in the House, but then on Wednesday, Elon Musk and Donald Trump came out and said we don't support it, and that caused the bill to lose support. And that one didn't pass. Didn't even get voted on. Then yesterday, there was a vote on a bill that Trump endorsed that needed to get 2/3. It didn't even get half the votes. I think roughly 38 Republicans did not go along with that bill. And so today, this would be the third attempt to fund the government before the midnight deadline. You can see here, Reuters says, if Congress does not pass a spending package, funding for everything from law enforcement to national parks will be disrupted, and millions of federal workers will go unpaid. Authorities warned that travelers during the busy Christmas season could face long lines at airports. Sources said the White House has alerted government agencies to prepare for an imminent shutdown. The federal government last shut down for 35 days during Trump's first White House term over a dispute about border security. And then in terms of what will happen today, there may be yesterday there was one bill voted on, like one complete spending bill. Republicans might break up elements that had previously been bundled together, according to a source familiar with internal discussions. That could see the House today holding separate votes on extending government funding into March, aid for disaster-hit areas, and farm aid that is due to expire at the end of the year. It is unclear whether the House would also vote on Trump's request to raise the debt ceiling, a difficult task he wants Congress to do before he takes office on January 20th. This is this whole kind of strange thing where the debt ceiling is a limit on how much money the American government can borrow to fund things. And usually it is Republicans, not Democrats, who like that debt ceiling. Usually the people who support the debt ceiling are Republicans who want to keep spending down, not Democrats. But President Trump has requested that Republicans, Congress, but it would require Republicans, because they're in control of the House, that Republicans do away with the debt ceiling either for his first couple of years or his whole presidency. So he doesn't want to have to deal with the debt ceiling. So you have this interesting issue where a Republican president is asking Republicans to do away with the debt ceiling, at least temporarily, when usually it's the Republicans who want the debt ceiling more than the Democrats. And Trump actually posted something about that today. Look, he posted on his Truth Social, Congress must get rid of or extend out to perhaps 2029, when he's no longer president, the ridiculous debt ceiling. Without this, we should never make a deal. Remember, the pressure is on whoever is president. So, I mean, he seems to be saying if there's no deal, then people will blame Biden, not Trump. But, I mean, I don't know. If Trump is saying to Republicans, don't make a deal, and they don't make a deal because of him, I don't know that people will still blame Biden for there not being a deal. Anyways, but that is Trump, a Republican president, telling Congress, including the majority in the House of Republicans, the Republican majority in the House, I don't want the debt ceiling in effect while I'm president. So are Republicans going to go along with this? I don't know. So that's what Trump had to say. Let me take some comments from you guys. By the way, thank you. Hey, Sean TV. Wow, that's really generous of you, Sean TV. That's very kind of Sean. Yes, Sean, as Sean mentioned, I'm still in Mexico City just for a very short time longer. Soon I will be back. But it is a fantastic city, Mexico City. Sean, thanks so much for your support. That's really nice of you, Sean TV. Also, thanks to Stinky Pinky for your support. Stinky Pinky, I don't have crypto investment advice for you. Thank you, Stinky Pinky. Thank you also, PZ Papa Zulu, for the gift memberships. Silent Way thinks Trump wants to get rid of the debt ceiling because he wants to raise $5 trillion in debt. Tinfoil Hat Crowd says Elon's fault, both sides had a deal. There was a deal as of Tuesday, then Wednesday, Elon Musk came out against it, and then Trump came out against it, and then it fell apart. Frank R. says Biden spent trillions, and that's the reason we are in debt. Trey Hilton says, Speaker Johnson said we aren't going to have an omnibus, but guess what? Sleuthy TV said, LOL, why would Trump want more debt? Michael Best says, as always, Congress always waits until the last minute to get things done. Exploring with Jim says Elon is based. Franklin Collins says Trump and Elon's fault, not the fact that it is a terrible bill. Creek Dreamer says, I rely on my disability, sick of billionaires hurting the most vulnerable. We'll talk shortly about what could be impacted in a government shutdown. So things like Medicare and Medicaid and Social Security, people will still be getting those checks. But I mean, one big impact here would be millions, I believe, of workers in the federal government would stop getting paid. And then you could have a thing where, for example, there could be a lot more, there could be disruption to air travel because while airport workers, like the TSA workers and air traffic controllers, they would need to come to work. They would not be getting their paychecks. And the last time there was a shutdown, you had issues with, for example, some TSA workers or air traffic controllers didn't come to work, I think because they weren't getting paid. And there were shortages, and that could disrupt air travel. But anyways, again, Reuters reports that Republicans today might break up elements that had previously been bundled together. That could see the House holding separate votes on extending government funding into March, aid for disaster-hit areas, and farm aid that is due to expire at the end of the year. Now, I don't know if any of those votes would pass. I would assume in the House they would all need 2/3. I don't know if Democrats would go along with that because the Democrat line we just heard from the press secretary of Biden's press secretary is, we had a deal and you broke the deal. So the White House line is, we want the deal that was there on Tuesday. Breaking up the bill and taking things out of the bill and voting on these separate parts of it, maybe Democrats might not go along with that. Also, as I said, it was unclear whether the House would also vote on Trump's request to raise the debt ceiling, a difficult task he wants Congress to do before he takes office on January 20th. House Speaker Mike Johnson said, we have a plan, we're expecting votes this morning. Well, it's not morning anymore, and no votes have taken place yet, I can tell you that. So that didn't happen. There's a little more of this article I want to read and take comments from you. House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries said he had been in touch with Speaker Johnson, but he has not seen the latest Republican plan. It would be the third attempt for Johnson, who saw his first spending package, a bipartisan deal, negotiated with Democrats who still control the Senate and the White House. The bipartisan deal collapsed on Wednesday after an online fusillade of criticism by Trump and Elon Musk, his billionaire advisor. And you might say, well, why does it matter if Trump and Elon Musk came out against the bill if Republicans and Democrats in Congress agreed to it? Well, there's a bunch of Republicans in Congress who don't want to get on the wrong side of Elon Musk and Trump. I believe Trump and Musk, if I remember right, both talked about, I know Trump did, but I think Trump and Musk both talked about the possibility of, if people didn't go along with what they wanted, what Musk and Trump wanted on this bill, if Republicans in the House didn't go along with it, they ran the risk of being primaried in 2 years. Because every House member needs to run for re-election every 2 years. So if you're a House member, or you're a Republican, and you get on the wrong side of Elon Musk and Trump, they could support somebody who runs against you in 2 years. And you might have a hard time getting reelected if Trump is endorsing your opponent, if Elon Musk is using his large amount of funding available to support your opponent. So that's a reason why you could have enough Republican support to get a bill passed on Tuesday, but then if Elon Musk and Trump come out against the bill on Wednesday, you don't have enough Republican support anymore. And yesterday, a second package which paired government funding and disaster aid with Trump's demand to lift the national debt limit failed to pass the House on Thursday as Democrats and 38 Republicans voted against it. Democrats accused Speaker Johnson of caving to pressure from an unelected billionaire, Musk, while Republican opponents said they would not vote for a package that increased government spending and cleared the way for trillions of dollars in increased debt. So Republicans what this is saying is the Republicans who voted against the bill yesterday, even though Trump supported it, they did not like the idea of getting rid of the national debt limit and voting for a bill that increased government spending and cleared the way for trillions of dollars in increased debt. Trump, who takes office in 1 month, I just showed you this, overnight ratcheted up his rhetoric, calling for a 5-year suspension of the U.S. debt ceiling, even after the House rejected a 2-year extension of the debt ceiling. And then the last thing in this article, it says, previous fights over the debt ceiling have spooked financial markets as a U.S. government default would send credit shocks around the world. The limit has been suspended under an agreement that technically expires on January 1st, though lawmakers likely would not have to tackle the issue before the spring. So there is, in effect, a debt limit. Eventually, the borrowing that the U.S. does will hit that limit, and then they can't spend any more money. And then the U.S. defaults on its debt. It has to stop paying back the people who loaned it money. And that could have big economic implications if that happens. I know it's a kind of a complex story, but let me take some comments from you guys and look for updates here as well. We'll see if there are more votes coming today. On the House floor, for example. Hey, thanks to Boz and Crazy Yoda, our members. But Crazy Yoda says fun times. Thank you, Tech Wizard, for your support, who says the State Department announced the cancellation of a $10 million reward for information on a Syrian leader. I haven't heard about that. It's a little off topic, Tech Wizard. So maybe if I see something about it, we'll talk about it later. But thank you so much, Tech Wizard, for your support. I really appreciate that. Also, Chris Canada, Quebec City, thanks for your support. Let's see here. Marin Go Bra says it's like he's trying to cause a massive recession. I don't know if Marin is speaking of Trump or what. Our viewer Tech Nozuma thinks Trump is not a fiscal conservative. Look, I mean, you know, there's not all Republicans, I think about spending the same way. Trump certainly has some plans which might cost some money, like tax cut plans and things he wants to spend money on. So, you know, we could have some disagreements in the Republican Party about how much to spend coming up. Remember, when Trump takes office next year, there's a very small, I believe just a few votes majority from of the Republicans in the House. To get any bill passed, you need the House support, Senate support, and the president to sign it. So, you know, if Trump wants to spend a bunch of money, but a few Republicans don't want to go along with that, well, that can be enough to kill the bill. Flora W says it will be a slowdown, not a full stop. Even in a shutdown, certain things continue. We'll talk more about that shortly. Douthis thinks House representatives don't want to get rid of the debt ceiling because some of them, the comment flew by, but Douthis said something like some of them will be around longer than Trump, whose time is limited. Okay, let's see here. By the way, let me check and just make sure I don't have any new updates on what's going on. Let me just do a quick check here and see if I can find any reporting about what's happening. You know, I'm seeing some different posts from different reporters about what the next plan proposal might be from House Republicans. I don't know if this will actually come true. So Jake Sherman, who's a very good reporter, he is with Punchbowl, founder of Punchbowl News. He said that there's a GOP meeting and that the GOP leadership is talking about an agreement whereby House Republicans would raise the debt limit by $1.5 trillion in the first reconciliation package, alongside a promise to cut $2.5 trillion in net mandatory spending in the reconciliation process. It's very complex. I don't even know what that all means. You know, so I guess you might think of this though is they might, because Trump wants an increase in the debt limit, or the debt limit gone actually. So to get Republican support, you might think that whatever bill is proposed might need to have some kind of thing in it where it either gets rid of the debt limit or suspends it for 4 years or raises the debt limit a lot so Trump doesn't have to deal with it. But remember, there's a bunch of Republicans who want to cut spending. So maybe, is there a way that the same bill, I mean, according to this reporting by Jake Sherman, the GOP is considering some kind of proposed bill which would raise the debt limit a lot, but also promise to cut spending, which might seem strange. Well, it's like, if you're going to cut spending, why do you need to raise the debt limit? Anyways, but it might be just trying to satisfy these different people, to satisfy the Republicans who don't want to go against Trump, and Trump wants, you know, the debt limit to not be a problem while he's president. So you might need something for those Republicans, and you might need something for the Republicans who want to cut spending. I mean, would such a bill pass? I don't know. And remember, any kind of bill that gets voted on in the House today, from what I understand, needs 2/3 votes anyway to pass. I don't know that Democrats will go along with any of these proposals. So we'll see what actually is voted on or happens or whatever. I'll let you know if I hear that there's a vote coming up. I'm just checking if I have any more updates for you here. Hang on 1 second. Lethal Old Fart thinks Dems will vote no on everything. Maybe I should ask you guys, we're going to do a little poll right now. Will there be a government shutdown tonight? Will the government shut down tonight? Yes or no? So if you think no, you think there's going to be a spending bill signed by tonight. Let's see what you guys have to say. The poll is up. You're looking at an AP headline right there. Okay, over on YouTube, here is the vote on YouTube among our viewers. 70% say yes, 30% say no. I'll get you the Facebook vote in a second. Cindy Abadi Copsey says yes, shutdown. Joe McFarland says yes, the government will shut down tonight. Michelle Batten says, I don't know if I should say yes or no. Pat Gottschalk, a viewer on Facebook, says, I hope all the business owners who voted for Trump now understand that they have voted for economic chaos and probably worse. Jessica Marie Villalobos on Facebook says, raise the debt ceiling to spend less. The math isn't mathing. The math isn't mathing. G Slayer says you make a deal and you stick to that deal, un-American to renege on the deal. It's renege, right? I might be pronouncing that word wrong. That's a word I never actually say in my normal life. I'll read it, and then I don't even know how to pronounce it. It's embarrassing. Is it renege or renege? Renege. 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 No, it's renege, not renege. It's renege. I think it's renege. Hold on. Renege. All right. Not renege. Renege. All right. Anyways, hey, let me show you what Twitch had to say. Let's look. What did Twitch say in the poll? What did our Twitch chat say? YouTube and Twitch are actually pretty close right now. Twitch says 76% say the government will shut down tonight. 24% say no. YouTube, it's 72% yes, 28% no. Sean says, renege comes from the Latin word, oh, it disappeared on me, Sean. From a Latin word, where did it go? Where did Sean's comment go? The Latin word negare, which means to deny. So about 3/4 of you, roughly, think there's going to be a shutdown. Thanks for voting in our poll. Thanks to Flexburger for your support. Flexburger says, no more money to Ukraine. Shut it down. Enough is enough. I don't believe that is a controversial provision. Money to Ukraine is not a sticking point in this bill, I don't believe. Thank you, Xylee, for being a member who says it's Jover. Thanks, Gabriel Morrow, who says raising debt ceiling is unavoidable. Thank you, Gabriel, for your support. Thank you also, JDT2003, who says Thomas Massey proposed to vote on one issue at a time. What a concept. Thanks also, Free Speech from Canada, for your support. That's really kind of you. And All That's Random, our member, thank you for being a member. Let's talk about what a government shutdown might mean. I get this question a lot. What would it mean if the government shut down? AP is an AP article here. Let's see what AP has to say about this. What would it mean? Congress has until midnight tonight to come up with a way to fund the government, or federal agencies will shut down, meaning hundreds of thousands of federal employees could be sent home or stay on the job without pay just ahead of the holidays. And by the way, many of these federal employees are not like super wealthy people. You know, it can cause a lot of hardship, extreme hardship, to many of these workers who need that paycheck every week to meet their expenses. As we've talked about, Republicans abandoned a bipartisan plan on Wednesday to prevent a shutdown after President-elect Trump and billionaire Elon Musk came out against it. Trump told Speaker Johnson to essentially renegotiate the deal days before a deadline when federal funding runs out. Because remember, the government has to vote. There has to be spending bills. The government has to approve its spending. They have to pass a bill or bills approving the spending. They can't spend the money otherwise. On Thursday, yesterday, Republicans put forth another bill. They put together a revamped government funding proposal that would keep the government running for 3 more months and suspend the debt ceiling for 2 years until 2027, January 30th. But that bill failed overwhelmingly in a House vote hours later. It didn't even get all the Republicans to vote. It didn't even get a majority of the votes. It needs 2/3. It didn't even get a majority, leaving next steps uncertain. Early Friday, some of Speaker Johnson's biggest critics brought their grievances to a private meeting in his Capitol office to seek a way forward, but some expressed doubts that a new vote would happen before the deadline tonight. Here's what to know from AP about a possible government shutdown, what agencies would be affected, and how long it could last. I think the last one was 35 days long in 2018 to 2019. No, there was not a $75,000 pay raise proposed for Congress. That is complete misinformation, which some people pointed out. Completely false misinformation. The proposed pay raise for Congress in the original compromise agreement, which would have been their first pay raise since 2009, was 3.8%. which I think was something like $6,000. 3.8%. No, it was not a 40% pay raise. That is completely false misinformation that some people put out. What does it mean if the government shuts down? A government shutdown happens when Congress does not pass legislation either temporarily or more permanently funds the government, and such a measure isn't signed by the president. The government has to pass a law, a new bill authorizing spending money. When would it start? It has to pass it by midnight tonight. Okay. Which government agencies would be affected by a shutdown? Each federal agency determines its own plan for how to handle a shutdown, but basically, any government operations deemed non-essential stop happening, and hundreds of thousands of federal employees see their work disrupted. I think there's around 2 million federal employees. Sometimes workers are furloughed, meaning they keep their jobs, but temporarily don't work until the government reopens. Other federal workers may stay on the job without full pay, with the expectation, but without pay at all. Other federal workers may stay on the job without getting paid, with the expectation they would be paid back in full once the government reopens. The basic rules for who works and who doesn't date back to the early 1980s and have not been significantly modified since. Under an earlier precedent, federal workers are exempted from furloughs if their jobs are national security related or if they perform essential activities that protect life and property. Essential government agencies like the FBI, the Border Patrol, and the Coast Guard remain open. TSA officers would continue to staff airport checkpoints. However, I believe all or most of the TSA workers would not be getting paid until after the shutdown, and then they would get their back pay. The U.S. Postal Service won't be affected because it's an independent agency, but national parks and monuments would close, and while troops would stay at their posts, many civilian employees and agencies like the Department of Defense would be sent home and not be getting paychecks. Court systems would be affected too, with civil proceedings paused while criminal prosecutions continue. The IRS would stop auditing tax returns. Automated tax collection would still stay on track. Will the government shutdown affect Social Security? No. Recipients of both Social Security and Medicare would continue to receive their benefits. Doctors and hospitals would continue to get their Medicare and Medicaid reimbursements. But it's possible that new applications would not be processed. New Medicare applications. Interesting. What is a CR or continuing resolution? You might hear that word talked about today, that phrase today. When Congress is down to the wire on passing measures to fund the federal government, the term CR often comes up. What does that mean? CR stands for continuing resolution, and it's a temporary spending bill that lets the federal government stay open and operating before Congress and the president have approved a more permanent appropriation. A clean CR is essentially a bill that extends existing appropriations at the same levels as the prior fiscal year. Hold on. You know what? I'll just read it. There's only a little more left in this article. I'll just read it. What is an omnibus bill? It's a massive, all-encompassing measure that lawmakers generally have little time to digest or understand before voting on it. There are a lot of spending measures all rolled into one. That's what happened. That's what the agreement was, I think, on Tuesday. It was a big omnibus bill. Or maybe I'm wrong about that. No, actually, I might be wrong about that. But the bill on Tuesday, the Tuesday agreement had a lot of stuff in it. It says Republicans opted against an omnibus bill this time, hoping to renegotiate all federal spending next year when Trump is in the White House and they will control both chambers. All right, so anyways, there's more to be said on this. I'm not totally clear on all this. We'll talk about more on this probably later. But is a government shutdown going to happen? Maybe and maybe not. There is often a scramble on Capitol Hill to put together a last-minute funding package to keep the government open just before a deadline. But shutdowns have happened, most recently 6 years ago when Trump demanded funding for a wall along the U.S. border. That shutdown was the longest in U.S. history. I think it was 35 days. Jimmy Carter saw a shutdown every year during his term as president, and there were six shutdowns during Reagan's time in the White House. All right. Anyways, so in the background, you are hearing probably air conditioner noise because I am not in my normal studio. I am in Mexico City for a little while longer, and I need to have the air conditioner on where I am at. So I am sorry for that noise in the background. So we'll talk more about what this affects. That was kind of a short summary there. Hang on a moment here. I'm seeing some more questions about what does this affect? Let me show you something, maybe a little more on that. Take some questions on it. Let's see here. Hang on a moment. This is from a Washington Post article. The U.S. government could shut down this weekend. Here's what you need to know. Who could be affected by a government shutdown? Let me take some comments first, though. Aurelian says Biden is nowhere to be found. Scott B. says economy is due a crash. They want to lay it at Trump's feet and return triumphant in the next election. My thoughts? Hold on a second here. Does this affect the crypto and stock market, says AS96? I mean, it's an interesting question. I can't tell you exactly. For example, one impact it could have on the stock market, for example, is if you look at the situation now and you think, wow, things are really going to be chaotic in the United States in the coming years. You might think, wow, that could, impact businesses and impact the economy, and maybe I'm a little less optimistic about the United States. Like, that could affect the stock market negatively. I'm just saying if people think that. I mean, there's all kinds of conclusions you might draw from this. So I can't say, but it's a good question. Now, that's not the only thing affecting the stock market. I mean, one of our viewers, Averk, said the stock market was up a little today, but I had read that the stock market had gone up a bit today because inflation numbers had come out and they hadn't been as high as expected, which might make you think that there could be more lowering of interest rates in the future. So, lots of things affect the stock market. But it's an interesting question. That I can't answer that for you. But people might have various responses to how all of this affects their outlook on the U.S. economy and about crypto too. Sophie B says, talk about all the pork in the bill and who that affects. Well, we don't know what's getting voted on now. Reportedly today, you might have things separated out, and one bill could be just to continue the current level of spending, and one bill could be on just disaster relief. So these could be, very slimmed down multiple bills voted on today from what we're hearing. I don't know that those would pass, but we'll have to see what, the original, there were some Republicans who came out and didn't like the original compromise that was made on Tuesday. I mean, Elon Musk thought there was too much spending in the compromise bill that was agreed to by both parties in the House on Tuesday. But that bill is not going to be voted on again. That bill is dead. That compromise is dead. Hey, thanks to Crazy Yoda, who says, can Republicans agree to a spending bill then in 30 days when in power repeal? Well, I think they can, but they would have to have some other spending bill to pass. Right? Because if you agree to a spending bill, by the way, to repeal a bill, there's that whole question of how many votes you need to repeal a bill, right? So would they have the votes to do that? They're only going to have a very narrow majority in the next Congress. But in theory they could, I would think. But if they repeal their spending bill, they would need to pass another one or the government couldn't spend any money. I don't know all the details about repealing bills. Thank you, Crazy Yoda. But again, if they passed a spending bill and then they just repealed it, if that's possible, then they can't spend any. There'd be a shutdown. Thank you, Crazy Yoda. Thank you, Oksana Harris. Oksana believes aiding Ukraine is not only morally and strategically correct, but it must be based, but it is a must based on our own promises. That's what Oksana Harris says. Now, I think she's talking about, some people in the chat were talking about Ukraine aid before. As far as I'm aware right now, I don't believe that Ukraine aid is a big sticking point in the current negotiations. I have not heard anything about debates over Ukraine aid being a sticking point in this spending negotiation. That's all I can tell you about that. I've read a lot on this current negotiation. Rita says Ukraine aid has already been appropriated for the defense spending budget. Maybe that is true. But I've not seen a single mention of it as being something that's being argued over in the argument over this coming to a spending agreement. Thanks to Chappie, our member. Let me show you first of all, let me make sure I don't have any updates for you here. I have not heard of any votes being scheduled yet today. We have about 10 hours left into a shutdown. About 10 hours. Jake Sherman, who is a founder of Punchbowl News, who is a very good reporter on Congress, said 6 minutes ago that there is news coming. Oh, I'm not going to read one thing he posted 3 minutes later. But if I hear big news, I'll let you know on these developments. You can also write to me on X @Lookner. John Turpin, our viewer, says maybe the government needs to shut down for a bit. Pay raises for Congress and rampant spending has created its own problem in the country. Probably 70% of government offices could close for a while and the country would still move forward. That's what John Turpin says. A couple of, I seen a PM breaking news, and I think it was AZ Intel, mentioned that at a Christmas market in Germany, there's a report that a car hit some people there. And I don't know that that's an intentional thing. I'll see if I can get you any updates on that real quick. What is this? Give me 1 second here. Focus Online Germany says probably several people injured when a car hits people at a Christmas market in Germany. Situation unclear. So I'll keep an eye on that. The background is unclear, says Focus Online. So, I mean, obviously you hear that and you're saying, like, did somebody attack the Christmas market? But at this point, that is unclear. So I will keep an eye on that and let you know if I hear anything more. Oh, I was going to show you something a little more about what would happen if there's a shutdown. So this is from the Washington Post. The U.S. government could shut down this weekend. Here's what to know. Who would be affected by a government shutdown? A government shutdown that lasts past the weekend would affect a wide range of crucial federal services and thousands of employees, at least hundreds of thousands. Millions of federal and military employees could be hit with paycheck delays, though that depends on how long a shutdown lasts. The IRS, which historically has been among the most aggressive federal agencies in curtailing operations when federal funding lapses, says it will furlough more than half of its 90,000 employees if a shutdown happens. That's like over 45,000 employees who don't go to work and don't get paid. Most government employees who are crucial to travel safety would continue working without pay during a government shutdown, but that designation varies by agency. All but about 3,000 of the TSA's more than 60,000 employees will stay on the job, according to the agency's most recent shutdown plan. However, in the last shutdown, if I have this right, you had issues in some airports with TSA employees and air traffic controllers who were not getting paid, calling in sick and not showing up, and that can lead to delays and pauses in service in air travel, something to keep in mind. The State Department will continue issuing passports and visas in the U.S. and abroad, the agency said, because the work is considered essential to national security, and most funding is covered by the fees that passport applicants typically pay. Do national parks close in a government shutdown? Yes. Closed national parks and Smithsonian museums in Washington are often the most visible early signs of a government shutdown. In general, the National Park Service sites will be closed during a period of lapse in appropriations, says the National Park Service. The majority of national park sites will be closed completely to public access. I believe some localities can, in some cases, decide to pay themselves to keep certain parks open, I think. But I'm not sure exactly how that works. Entitlements such as Social Security and Medicare have their own funding vehicles that are separate from the appropriations currently in question. They would not be affected. Angry Vet says military must work, no pay. Old Cat Lady says, why would people work and not get paid? Because if you work during a shutdown and you're not getting paid, you, in theory, will get your back pay paid to you later when the shutdown is over. You'll get the money you are owed paid to you. You're getting it late. Hold on a second here. Less than 10 hours until the government shuts down. Less than 10 hours now. Will there be votes today? On bills to avoid a shutdown. If there are, will they pass? I do not know. We'll have to see. Let me just real quick post something. I wanted to just post an update about, again, there was a Christmas market in Germany, a car ran into some people, and it's not clear what the background is and whether this was intentional or not. DPA news agency says police arrest a driver who crashed into a Christmas market in the central German city of Magdeburg on Friday evening. Let me post that. Germany's DPA news agency says the driver of the car has been arrested, but authorities I have not yet seen, but Yeah, so again, a car hit some people at a Christmas market in Magdeburg, Germany. B&O News mentioned it. PM Breaking News mentioned it. Germany's DPA news agency says that police have arrested the driver. But, I mean, for example, they could arrest the driver for drunk driving or something. So I have not seen any kind of reporting yet from Germany saying that the government, that the authorities consider this an intentional act. But I'll keep an eye on this and let you know what I see. All right, now hold on. I just saw something else about this. Yeah, Focus Germany says it is unclear whether this was possibly a terrorist attack, the car going into the crowd at a Magdeburg Christmas market. Okay, so I'll let you know if I hear more. Oh, thank you, Space Fraggle, for your support. Thank you, Roddy Mom, for your support. That's very kind of you. Thank you, Lane Purvis, for your support, who says the next EFT pay date for federal workers is January 3rd. That would be the next payday we miss if the shutdown continues into next week, making this a half paycheck. That's interesting. One of the articles said that if the shutdown lasts long enough, the pay for government workers could be affected. So I don't know exactly. Again, according to our viewer, Lane Purvis says the next EFT payday, electronic funds transfer pay date for federal workers is January 3rd. That would then be the next payday we miss if a shutdown continues into next week, making this a half paycheck. Thank you, Lane. I hope for the sake of federal workers there's not a long shutdown and that they don't miss paychecks. Thank you, by the way, Rick D. That's very generous of you. Really appreciate your support, Rick D. Thanks. It's very kind of you, Rick. Also, Space Fraggle, thanks again for your support. Thank you, Isotope. Isotope says, let's be clear, all government employees will get paid. Some will get paid after the shutdown is over, and some will get paid during the shutdown. All will get paid. So I understand your point, Isotope, and that's a fair point. But there are, for example, contractors who work for the federal government but are not federal government employees. And I believe there may be cases where the contractors just don't come to work and just that work is just lost to them because they're not federal employees. But I'll try to get you more information on that. I was reading something about that today. Yes, so the New York Times says that federal employees, including those who are furloughed, get back pay once the funding for the government continues. But the Times says that these protections aren't necessarily guaranteed for the many contractors who do things like who are like janitors and cafeteria workers, for example. So let's say you're a janitor or cafeteria worker in a federal building. You might work for, I guess, a janitorial service. You're not necessarily a federal employee. And you don't go to work for a few weeks during a shutdown. From what this article is saying, you don't get paid for that time. Thanks, by the way, to, sorry, you're hearing a little noise outside. Hold Hold on a moment here. Hey, thanks, by the way, to Rick D for the gift memberships. That's really generous of you, Rick D. And Goomis. Thank you so much, Goomis, for the gift memberships. Thank you. Mrs. Ed 3, thanks for being a member. Also, thanks to... hang on a moment here. Thanks to subscribing All That I Am on Twitch. Thanks for subscribing over there. Thanks Warlord Gord for subscribing. Thanks Bad Toastery for the bits over there on Twitch. Oh, I'm behind on Twitch. I really messed up. Ascertainment, thanks for the bits on Twitch. Douthis gave out 10 community subs on Twitch. Wow. Douthis, that's very nice of you. Thanks Jason Park 85 for the bits. Thanks Jcon for subscribing. Thanks Pragmatic Realist for subscribing. I just want to check on that Germany story, if you give me a second here. Give me one moment. Isotope says all contract employees that have a contract that stipulates that they get paid if they are unable to work due to circumstances beyond their control, shut it down. So Isotope disagrees with the New York Times. Thank you, Isotope, for your support. Again, the New York Times says that federal employees get back pay even if they're furloughed once the government is funded again. But the New York Times says that those protections aren't necessarily guaranteed for many contractors who work in government agencies like janitors and cafeteria workers. Okay? Now, Isotope disagrees with the New York Times. I don't know exactly myself. I'm just telling you what different people are saying. Thank you so much, Isotope. I appreciate that. Focus Germany says the background is unclear. Whether the car driving into a Christmas market in Magdeburg, Germany, is an attack. Whether the car driving into a crowd at a German Christmas market in Magdeburg was an attack. So I'm keeping an eye on that story, guys, but I don't have great information for you on that yet, on whether that was an attack or not in Germany. I am looking for more information, as we also cover this as well, obviously. Let me just pull up something here. Yeah, I mean, just really quick, again, we're not specifically covering this right now, but Reuters says a car plowed into a group of people at a Christmas market in the German town of Magdeburg. Broadcaster MDR and other local media said on Friday, citing a local government official, several people were injured and a few might have been killed. Local police and the local government spokesperson were not immediately available for comment. Quick update there from Reuters. Express saying it was 2 cars. I have not heard that report yet from any of the German sources I am looking at. MDR says there has been an attack. That's what MDR says, Germany. They say a government official says there's been an attack. This is still not clear yet. They also say confirmation from police is still pending. Oh, does B&O News have a video of it? Hold on. Or is that Aftermath? Looks like it's Aftermath. Oh, hold on a second. Hold on. I'm seeing possibly some video online of it. You know, I might cover that, guys. I think I might wrap up this stream real quick and hop on and cover that. So why don't I do that? I'm just going to really quickly wrap this up and then get back on the air to cover that. Okay, like fast. So let me do that. And I'll be back on in a few minutes to cover the car running into a Christmas market in Germany. Again, I'm not even positive yet that it was an attack. But so thanks to our moderators and you guys. But again, I'm coming right back. Thanks to Roddy Mom, by the way, for your support. Roddy Mom and L Train, thanks for your support. But let me just get off quickly, and then I'll come back on the air, and just as soon as I can, I'm just going to post another event, okay? So give me a couple minutes. I'm coming right back on the air to cover that story, and more Shutdown coverage later today. So sorry for the quick wrap-up, and thank you to our mods, too. But Roberts, May Queen, really quick, let me just shout out Linda Belk, Larry, thanks, mods. I'll be back in just a couple minutes. Bash and Girl, Big Ball of Yarn, Hearsay, McBritches, Surly Dev. Thanks, Just Some Guy, Tennessee, for subscribing. On Facebook, Kay Larry Body, Margaret Riley, Ronald Egnor, all of our moderators. So, again, give me a couple minutes. I'm wrapping up this stream. I'm covering the Germany thing in a minute. Keep an eye out for the next stream coming up in a couple minutes. I'll see you in a couple minutes.